All right. I think that is 6 o'clock by my watch. So let's call the City Council December 21st work session to order. A roll call, please, Sue.
Councillor Yarnell Holloman.
Here.
Councillor Martinez Plancarte.
Here.
Mayor Rogers.
Here.
Councillor Bacon.
Here.
Councillor Finley.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, Councillor Cofield is absent tonight. That's excused, and the District 5 seat is vacant.
Okay, thanks so much. All right, review of the council agenda and meeting. Anything on the business session this evening, folks? I'd like to, if it's all right, I'd like to move 2020-3712 off the consent calendar. If we could, just for a quick vote, nothing else. All right, and now the October 2020 fund financial statements. Any comments or questions for Matt? Matt, our super short timer at this point. No. Now's the time. Now you can go after him right now. Now's the time for those questions. So, all right, hearing none. Let's move on to presentation 5A, council work session on 2021 work sessions. All right, so I'll start in. I think you've got a piece in your packet, but basically, I believe staff is looking for input from us, and we sent something out about whether or not, items that we might like to see during work sessions for the coming calendar year. So any thoughts, folks?
Mr. Mayor.
Stephanie, please.
I know that this is something that had been sort of scheduled, but something I would be interested in is either a joint work session or just having the county commissioners come for a work session to kind of give us an update on county stuff and sort of try to hammer out how we overlap. So that's one of the things I'd be interested in.
Yeah, I agree. I would like to know a little bit more on roles and responsibilities to cities and or commissions and the Board of Commissioners. All right, anything else, folks?
Rick, I have one suggestion. I know in the past we've had like nonprofits or other organizations come to us for funds. I wonder if there's a process or if we could talk a little bit more about that. If we have like a budget or anything where we can do that.
All right, so something on the lines of community support and that, yep, I think that'd be great. All right. What else, folks?
I selfishly would love to have like a public health update from health agencies around COVID to include like the vaccine and COVID testing updates for Newberg specifically. I think that could be kind of a nice public awareness for people.
Okay, yep, sounds good. Anything else? Okay, let's see. I mean, we've talked about before, and I know Denise mentioned before, SDC. I'd love to do SDCs, the calculations, and particularly in the relationship with master plans. I'd like to delve into a little bit of a discussion on TLT, and particularly things with comparison with other communities. Yeah, as you mentioned, as Jules mentioned, I'd also like to get specific updates from the Housing Authority and from YCAP, particularly centered on their service numbers in Newberg and what they're doing here and who they're serving. At the same time, if we could do it, I'd love an update from CPRD and the school district. The school district, particularly now, if later tonight we're going to give them some money, be nice to know where that went. And then otherwise, update on goals, whether individually, I'd love to know, once we get moving on the equity stuff, particularly, but all of the goals. So that's what I got. Anything else? Anything we missed here?
I mean, just along the lines of the goals, I would love to hear just how department heads have creatively incorporated that into their day-to-day operations. And I know we speak about it all the time, but more of a, I guess, direct communication on what they've come up with, because I'm sure there's some creative things that have transpired over the last months.
Okay, anything else? All right, Dan, did you have any others or any other thoughts?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think this is a good list, and certainly some of these will take some time for us to queue up, I think. You know, my take on the public assistance, the community support line item, I mean, certainly we can do that. I guess my understanding was that we had done that in the past and we stopped doing it. And so I think it's really just a decision of council as to whether we want to, and then maybe putting parameters in place. So I would imagine that discussion sort of focusing on that. And then, you know, question is to, I think we had talked about when I'm trying to think when Patrick was on council, we had talked about the grant program. And that's something that I don't know if you all want to revisit, and certainly has sort of dropped to the wayside. But you know, something that could come back as well. That might be a way to spur some innovation or some creative thinking with hitting goals and using some of the money that we have available to us, which my guess is not going to be plentiful again, just based on the longevity of COVID. You know, I think we had budgeted to assume an uptick by about now, and it certainly has not come yet. So anyway, I think these are good. I don't know if there are others on staff who have suggestions or anything, or maybe our soon to be departing finance director popped on the screen has some thoughts specific to the community support line item.
I think that, yeah, thanks, Dan. The way that the community support, I believe there's 20,000 in there right now, and it's mainly a placeholder. You know, the budget process has traditionally had, you know, nonprofits come, although after many years of, you know, not awarding much, I think that that's tapered off a bit. So it's discretionary, and it's definitely something that council can, you know, tap into, and it can, you know, be increased, decreased, whatever. So it would be nice though to have a strategy on how that's done, so that we can communicate to the, you know, as a staff as to how they, you know, what they can expect. There's really no mandate that these folks come to the budget committee. That's just almost been tradition. If you ask Doug or, you know, other people that have, you know, been through budget committees at other cities. I mean, when I first started in North Bend, it was 20 people, 20 different agencies came to the first meeting, and it was like, you know, but there's no budget law that says you have to do that. You just have to have a public hearing for the state shared revenues, and that's all that is required. But so having an internal strategy would certainly be nice.
One other that I just thought of is actually, I'd love an update on the sidewalk program. At some point, I think that'd be cool to know how that's gone. All right, anything else that comes to mind, folks?
Mr. Mayor, the sidewalk repairs is on the schedule for February 1st.
Is it? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Oh, and which also reminds me of boards and commissions was another one. I think that's already been scheduled as well.
February 1st.
Yeah, thank you.
Mayor, this is Doug. Has council thought about any kind of briefings from our elected officials in Salem during the course of the year?
Oh, no,
They have a long session that's coming up,
Mhm.
and that will be a big one for us to track and monitor what's going on with new laws.
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be very good. I mean, I suppose an update from the COG as well would probably be good. Okay. Okay. All right. Anything else? And once the bypass gets fully funded, we'll have to have an update on that. So that's only a matter of days away now. So we'll get that update, I'm sure. So there we go. All right. Anything else? Got a list. I don't know if we have 24 there, but we got quite a few. So that's good. All right. We good with that? Let's move into the year-end wrap-up. Dan and Kezia.
It's an understatement of the, I don't know, I guess it is the year, given that it's the year-end wrap-up, but this is not, certainly not how I imagined starting my tenure at Newberg, and certainly not the year that I think most of us expected to sort of soldier through and survive. It sort of feels like one of those years that we'll all look back and have plenty of stories, but probably very few super positive ones, except for maybe some resilient stories. But I did want to spend some time, and this will serve as the city manager's report as well. So I'll try not to take too long, but now that I've got plenty of time, I may drag on a little bit longer. But in essence, wanted to provide a summary of all the accomplishments of the staff, because one of the things I did personally, one of the reasons I did come to Newberg, and one of the things that I thought was super attractive about the city manager's position was really stepping into a team of staff that were really proud of serving their community. And I think that this has been such a hard year that has required a lot of flexibility, a lot of adaptation, and a lot of resilience. And it just has brought out, I think, both the best and sometimes the worst of folks throughout the organization, throughout the community. And, just wanted to take the opportunity to celebrate, I guess, a little bit, the fact that this is the last meeting of 2020. And so that means it's next year, it's going to be, next meeting is next year. It's going to be so much better. We've got a COVID vaccine. We've got all kinds of things to look forward to. And hopefully, the good news is on the horizon for COVID in particular. And I think hopefully for some of our really struggling folks in the community. Next slide. So one of the things, obviously I'm going to spend a fair amount of time talking about COVID because it dominated my time this year. And it really, I got here 2 weeks before COVID. So it was hard to make relationships and to get to know the community. And I feel like I'm going to be the guy in a year and a half who still may not know sort of the players in Newberg, a lot of the folks, and it's a struggle to sort of build relationships in a Zoom environment, and it's a challenge to do my job effectively. But one of the things I was really proud of was the 2 business assistance financial programs we were able to put out. And those, I think, were early, and we really tried to lean in on what we thought was an emergent issue that was going to spike and maybe would have been over by now. And obviously it's not the case, but we were able to put through the BERG, the Business Emergency Relief Grant Program. We were able to help 62 businesses, a myriad of types of businesses, with rental or mortgage assistance payments. We were also, through the Support Local Challenge, we were able to provide rebates, utility rebates for Newberg utilities. We got a lot of folks who were upset about the fact that we were not providing rebates to PGE or to other utilities, but I understand, we probably needed to be clearer about that, but also, that we're trying to control what we could control. And so we really tried to apply the spending that was local to provide a benefit to residents. And so we received there about $419, almost $420,000 in receipts, and gave out requested amount of about $163,500, $163,500. And that was rebates to residents and businesses. So, something that we were able to do, and I think had an immediate impact on folks in the community. Next slide, please. One of the other things was the adaptation of our staff. We had the same issue that many cities and organizations had, which is that we've got a lot of staff who have very specific jobs, and some of those jobs, like at the library, are very customer service, hands-on customer service oriented. And, with COVID, we had to close the library for periods of time. And, it's super hard on those people. So one of the things we tried to do was keep them busy. We instituted the Newberg Mask Force, so that picture of masks being made. They made 4,822 masks for local organizations throughout the county, and super proud of them for just stepping up and really seeing a need and seeing a way to spend time together on solving a problem. They also made hand sanitizer using a World Health Organization recipe. Who knew that there were recipes like that? But that's why they're librarians. They know where to find those kinds of things, and they were able to find the raw materials with help from Public Works, and made a lot of hand sanitizer for our employees and for others in the community. More than that, they also just really, the library spent a lot of time on providing an ongoing continuity of service to the residents of Newberg, which included a lot of where you can see on the left video shots of content or educational things, where there was story time or actual adult literacy, early literacy, all kinds of hobby share programming. They made a ton of videos. They made a ton of craft activities. They developed a curbside pickup program and pickup and drop off in order to reduce the contact with residents and patrons, and so to make their service stay and be as long lasting as possible. They tried to minimize contact with folks and still provide the service. They instituted a book bundle program and STEM grab and go bags and all kinds of other really creative ideas. Next slide, please. So one of the other things was, there's a lot of other moving parts related to the safety of our staff, and frankly, your safety as counselors, with the fact that we've gone very quickly to a remote meeting platform. And I think generally speaking, we've done that, without a huge amount of issues, knock on wood. But I think we're all getting used to it to a certain degree, or have gotten used to it. It's certainly not the optimal way to meet, but we've tried to find ways to provide public comment, to provide engagement for folks, and to make sure that things are available, that the public meetings are available to the public to participate in and to provide comment to. And I think that's a really big testament to our IT staff and to a lot of other staff who've put together, like Sue, the agendas and managed making sure that all these moving parts who are now remote are working together. One of the other things, I think that maybe you can't recognize Leo there in the top right, but Leo is elbow in mask. Leo's there converting our archives building, and it's a building essentially across the alleyway from City Hall. We've converted that successfully using CARES Act funding, so that we have remote work spaces for employees who are then able to continue to work and be on site safely. And so we've got folks from records, public works, IT, who are able to work and have that physical separation. And, it's a true testament to just the teamwork of, let's get it done. Let's figure out how to do it. All the things on a punch list that need to happen for building out a workspace, have to do it quickly and effectively. They also did that, the folks for in the facilities area, they did that for themselves. They did that actually at maintenance building C in the public works yard to adapt that space to increase the separation for their own office space as well. And so, just one of those things where I think see a problem, solve a problem, and I'm appreciative of the can-do attitude of the staff there. With a lot of the other stuff, we've got pictures here, a lot of the celebrations and community support that have occurred. So on the bottom left, the superheroes work here. I think our police department in particular has been participant in hero salutes, parades, all kinds of other events. And they've actually recently done their second partnership with It's Party Time Catering to do meals for seniors. So they did one in the summer and one for Thanksgiving. And, you know, just a really nice thing to do for folks who are feeling isolated and who are not able to necessarily get out and to take care of themselves, especially as an outright risk individual in COVID time. They're also able to do Shop with a Cop, which was adapted to be COVID safe. And I believe there's some pictures on that that came out maybe last week. So do what we can to kind of keep some continuity and to keep connection. You know, we were also able as a city to participate in an online Camellia Festival. We obviously lost nearly all of the festivals and the social connection that we're used to in Newberg. You know, to me, it's, you know, it's all brand new, and yet I kept sort of seeing the list of all the things, especially in the summer, of, you know, the things we're missing, and it was just pushing this to the next, to the next, to the next, and, you know, just we're going to cancel, and so I'm excited that we were able to not cancel and just pivot on some things. You know, really made an extra effort on creating the Festival of Trees rather than, you know, having one big tree lighting, for instance. Really looked for ways to solve a problem rather than just give in. And I think that's part of where people are. Maybe, you know, you're seeing the same thing, that, you know, we're all sort of now rebelling against COVID and we're looking for ways to push back. Next slide, please. So this is a good amount of, you know, laundry list. And so I'm going to probably skip ahead, but we will post this. You know, there's a fair amount of really intensive work that went into the various reports, the various plans. And it's not to minimize the work that was done on those, but, you know, just real quickly, I guess I would just say that, you know, the ongoing effort around urban renewal and the goal that council has there, you know, was a big effort for the 2020. You know, the mill being sold was a huge effort for a long time, and is such great news for the community. And I think you're going to see some real progress on that coming very, very shortly. And, you know, so I think even though this has been a super hard year, you know, just this list and next slide, the list there too, there's a lot of stuff. It takes a lot to get, you know, we have a lot of queued up projects, regular work that we had planned to do that we continued with. For instance, trying to do the rollout on C-Click Fix, which we had talked about numerous times over the course of the year. You know, making sure that we can address the goal of, you know, greater transparency and accessibility, better customer service. You know, we've got this sidewalk initiative that we talked about briefly a few minutes ago. You know, we've got, you know, for instance, you know, fair number of projects related to the public works yard or the public works operations in water and wastewater, you know, modernization and or necessary replacement of a lot of our aging equipment. You know, that's work that had to continue regardless of COVID. Next slide. And, you know, just proud that we've had staff roll up their sleeves and really dig in to do all of that stuff and to still look for other ways to provide service to the community. And, you know, so you've got here the urban renewal boundary, the C-Click Fix advertisement, the safe exchange zone, which I'm not sure if we've talked enough about, but a 24-hour surveilled area that folks can come if they've got a transaction with someone that they're not familiar with, like a Craigslist kind of transaction, and essentially come to the police department and have it be safe because it's being watched, it's being recorded by our security cameras, and is essentially right outside from a lot of cops. And hopefully it's increasing the overall safety of folks who are doing transactions like that, you know, just because they're able to take advantage of that. But the next picture in the top right corner is replacement of HVAC and really an update of the equipment there that needed to be done. And COVID or not, we have to get those things replaced. And so we've got Memorial Park sidewalks and ADA related improvements that were done there, and then obviously the mill. Which I can't say that was necessarily us buying it or being sold from that standpoint, but Doug had a lot of work in that, and so I think it was not something that would have happened quite so smoothly, I think, without his participation. Next slide. So the other thing I wanted to highlight was the grants that we received, ways that we were able to defray some of the costs so that the city's budget was not necessarily taking and absorbing a lot of the extra work or the ongoing priorities that were evolving. We obviously received CARES Act funding from the Corona stimulus, the federal program, and we were able to apply that to a lot of ongoing needs, from the staff time to all kinds of related projects. And I think our last little bit is on the agenda today for distribution. But we've got in here economic opportunities analysis, housing needs analysis, and middle housing update grants that in total amounted to $96,000. The police department was able to get a grant for peer support, which is a super important program for the mental health and the retention of our staff, and really is great because it'll partner regionally with the Responder Life program, and really look to see how that program take hold and see some positive from that very quickly as we get our staff trained up. But are also able to get a Safe Routes to School grant at the end of the year, just a few weeks ago. And that will have a huge transformative effect on the Edwards Elementary area. And I think, hopefully will be, just a huge change for the health and the safety of the kids in that area, and I think arguably for all the residents in the area around the school. Next slide, please. So we did a fair amount of analysis of our existing systems and looked to improve, and so some of that came through our budget. We used some of our planned budget allocation for new recruiting software. Actually before I arrived, and we're in the process of implementing NeoGov, which is a nice online platform that we've since added some modules to, which will help us do performance evaluation and tag learning to staff and really track some of the ongoing education requirements of staff, credentialing, and other kinds of things like that. It's a huge efficiency for data gathering, which is something, as we were doing our first cut of trying to answer the questions for our equity assessment, that having that data in an electronic format is super helpful comparative to trying to cobble it together in a paper format. So I look forward to that really taking hold and having a few years more of that system in place, where we can do some analysis, some better analysis of our applicants, the types of folks we're actually getting on board, et cetera. So NeoGov's been a really big help for our HR department, especially as we've had some transition in HR this year. Just the seismic retrofit was something that we had a grant for, and I think that along with the video recording system, it's easy to forget that we had that project done right before COVID hit. We were able to get the new recording system and microphones up and running for, I think, maybe one meeting, if I recall. But whenever it is that we get back to meeting in person, we'll have a greater enhanced ability, both from the quality of the video and audio, but also I think just the connectivity to post the video to the public. So that'll help at the public safety building. and making sure that our meetings are more transparent and available. I think the evidence storage we talked about a while ago is about a $50,000 project that resulted in about 200% increase in the amount of storage space of evidence. So a nice improvement, the security and safety of said evidence, along with the ability to track and just manage all the pieces of evidence there. I think Operation Poppins is one that you kind of do the which. That one is willed right there. Organizing a massive move of the content in our in nonfiction and Spanish collections, or reorganizing 30,000 items in 3.5 hours with a huge amount of volunteer help, but essentially just seeing an opportunity to enhance our service to Latinx portion of the community, but also to reorganize what we have available and make it more user-friendly and more welcoming, the library itself. And then to top it off, putting new signage that really has been, just a wonderful visual way to see the collection and where to find items in the library. And I think it was just one of those examples of someone who, had a vision for what was the right thing to do to improve the service of the library, and really, just it was a great job. Next slide, please. Okay, so updating systems and improving processes, like everybody's favorite. So we've got a fair amount of ongoing maintenance, which is sort of the name of the game for Public Works. That's just like we said, we talked about the ongoing work that needs to happen. And, just without minimizing it, I won't go into a huge amount of detail on this. I mean, this has just been a lot of planning, a lot of, really doing some solid research on, what options are available. For instance, really thinking about, apparently I was told the final oxidation ditch rotor was replaced, right? And so that first line item, our mechanics, our staff researched options and identified rotors built within the region with local options, and was able to save us $250,000. So I just want to give kudos there that we're talking about ownership of high quality outcome, and really just proud of them for taking that extra effort and really seeing that through. Next slide, please. So we spent a fair amount of IT and police effort this late part of the year on updating the computer-aided dispatch, CAD, and records management system, RMS. And who doesn't love one more acronym? So the mobile data terminal, MDT, as well. So the mobile data terminals are what's in the police vehicles, and we're able to access all this stuff, and the dispatchers have the ability to use the CAD to really direct officers and other resources where they need to be. We had an upgrade that I should correct. It's not the first time a significant upgrade in 50 years. Not quite that bad, but it was the first in 15 years. But 15 is quite a long time when you think about technology and what that change must have been for our staff. And so I'm happy for them that they were able to plan the project. It sounded like it went very smoothly, and then to be able to move forward to have a smooth implementation of something so significant. Imagining that there are some still ongoing kinks being worked out, but ultimately a big project for those two groups, and first time in 15 years that they've touched it. Next slide, please. So just to brag a little bit on our staff, not that I haven't been, but Andrew Shepard was recognized by his peers. He is a an operator 3 regulatory specialist in wastewater treatment, and won the wastewater operator of the year for the Oregon region. So essentially for the state. And just a huge honor to be recognized as the best in your entire peer group. Just very proud of him and the work that he and his colleagues are doing. And Corey Burkle, I think has been super impressive to me as an assistant library director, but won the Evelyn Sibley Lampman Award, which I think is essentially like being the one who's most likely to wear the studded unicorn kind of thing, and the sumo costumes and stuff like that. But no, it's she is willing to do whatever it takes to really make learning and reading super fun for children. And it's a recognition of her contribution to Oregon in the fields of children's literature and library services. And really, she's always willing to put on a costume, always willing to put a smile on someone else's face. And, just again, really proud of her. And then lastly, on this one, we got a number of officers, Pilon, Rapid, Hostad, Junkin, and Dickerson were all presented with a life-saving award for saving a family from a burning apartment building, along with assistance from communications officer Jimena Bernay. And really, I think just the collaboration there, how important it is for that communication from dispatch to officers who are patrolling in an area, to have the quickest possible response, and really saving someone's life is a matter of seconds. And so just someone who's thoughtful in calling folks to the scene of what it was a horrific kind of incident. And so just proud of the life-saving work that they did as well. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm not going to read all this, but this is just the summary of all the stuff. This is really, we have a lot going on, and there's always, inspection. There's always, all the various departments working together, trying to do their part to make sure that things are working as smoothly as possible for residents. I know we can improve, and I know we will improve on our ability to provide service to one another and to, the customer service to residents as well, and other stakeholders. But, just want to recognize it's been a tough year, and, I think, staff has done a good job and really trying to do their best. So that's it. And I appreciate you indulging me. I'm sorry it took so long.
All right. Any comments or questions for Dan? Yeah, Elise.
Hopefully my child's not screaming, but I mean, I just really want to pause and say thank you. I know that we focus a lot on our goals, but I think it's also super, super important just to stop and acknowledge the amount of work that goes in from each city staff to get their assigned duties done as well. And especially during COVID, it's the things that you listed out that I think, I feel really guilty of I have no idea what a lot of those things are. And it's just pretty incredible to see the amount of work that has been accomplished in a year that has been pretty difficult in all angles to do in-person work. And so much of the city work requires in-person work. So especially, our public works crew, our police officers, our library crew that has made it possible for people to still have virtual learning and reading. And as a person that's trudged through COVID, I know I don't feel like I get enough thanks from up top. And I hope that even though we're not up top, I hope that city staff know how much just true respect I have for you for all the work that you've done this year. So hats off to you. And I hope to get to know people better when we have the opportunity to be in person more. So thank you.
Right, anyone else? All right. You know, the one thing I'd like to say is, yes, I'd certainly like to echo all of Elisa's comments. You know, I'd also like to mention that all of this was accomplished not only in COVID, but also with a brand new city manager and new directors in virtually every position. Now, it didn't all happen exactly this year, but if you look back and say, new library director, human resource director / assistant city manager, police chief, public works director. We'll learn later on tonight of a city attorney and soon to be finance director as well. It's amazing. And we just can't thank you all enough. And that's, and it's not, you know, and again, this isn't thanks just from us, right? But this is from the 24,000 people that you all work for. So thank you for all of that. All right, Elise.
I do feel like it also needs to be said just publicly, and he doesn't seem like a very public person, but Dan, I mean, I actually do not know how we would have survived this year without you. So I'm sure you wonder every day why you chose to take this job when you did and how much easier it would have been to stay in your old job this year. So into your family, I mean, just utmost gratitude for what you and your family have sacrificed so that our city can function at the level that it has. And we really, really, really appreciate you, even if we are a tough bunch sometimes.
Thank you. No, I would not do it any differently. You know, I appreciate all of your support. You know, I think that's a key to, you know, making all this happen, you know, is I think making sure that we're all on the same page. And, you know, I think we've got a really dedicated group of employees who care a lot. And so, you know, just trying to kind of help them and kind of keep out of their way as best I can, or at least provide some direction to make sure that they're staying out of other people's way. So trying to do all the good stuff, but thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Anything else? You know, and that certainly goes, you know, I hope I didn't misspeak earlier, but having new staff, I mean, that doesn't diminish the work of the staff that's continued to be here, i.e. Doug. Yes, I know. Mr. Rux, how could we ever thank you enough, my friend? I don't know that we ever possibly could. And, you know, Kezia and all the rest of y'all that are on the line, thank you. Thank you for all that you do. So anything else for that? Anybody else? All right, I've got one other thing before we adjourn this and head into the next thing. And this Councilor Finley mentioned this, and I know Dan and I spoke about this earlier. You may get some calls from local businesses regarding an action taken, I think it was last Friday, by the Board of Commissioners. And it has to do with a resolution regarding COVID testing and this kind of thing. So I would encourage you to read the board order. It appeared in their packet on December 17th. And it's interesting. I spoke with Commissioner Kula this afternoon, and we'll speak with Commissioner Sterrett tomorrow. But it may cause some concern or not concern, potential concern, but certainly some confusion among the business community. So just be aware of that. And I won't read it to you, but I'll give you some of the phrases. It cannot be ascertained with certainty that testing by the Oregon Health Authority is accurate. They're concerned using inaccurate testing or inaccurate testing numbers. The finding of negligence per se on the sole basis of having engaged in activities that are inconsistent with executive orders, good faith compliance, reasonable precautions, and that this would go to a circuit court. So just keep it in mind. You may get some outreach. I actually got the mayor from Sandy reached out to say he was going to be in town to talk to local businesses about this issue. So it's obviously something that's taking some focus, but just know that, and I'd encourage you to read the resolution. So there you go.
And I encourage any local business owner to give me a call, and I'd be happy to chat with them about that.
Yeah, and I offered the same. I offered the same to both the mayor and to Commissioner Sterrett and whoever else. I would happily talk to you. And yes, we actually have a counselor who works in the field of public health, as it turns out.
Actually reviews all the positive cases and submits to Oregon Health Authority personally.
Okay, so there you heard it. There you heard it. That's Counselor Yarnell Holloman, right? But call any of us. I'm sure we would happily tell you what we know or what we could hope to do to help the business community or anyone else. So there it is. Anything else until we get back to the work session? Anything else, folks? All right. No, the business session is what I meant to say. I'm surprised Sue did not correct me. The business session. All right, let's be back here at exactly 7 o'clock. Sign out, stop your video, mute your phones, and we'll be. All right, folks. Well, it looks like 7 o'clock. If you are ready, Sue, we will call the City Council business session for December 21st, 2020 to order. A roll call, please, Sue.
Councillor Yarnell Holloman,
Here.
Councillor Martinez Plancarte,
Here.
Mayor Rogers,
Here.
Councillor Bacon,
Here.
Councillor Finley.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, Councillor Cofield is excused absence for the evening and the District 5 seat is vacant.
All right, thank you very much. The Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, well, thank you. Next on our agenda would be the city manager's report, but we heard that earlier this evening during the work session. If you'd like to see it, I'm sure it will be posted online and you can see it there. All of the accomplishments of the past year, which are many. So those listening in, please check it out. All right, next, I have the great pleasure of presenting some council appointments to you all this evening. I can find out where I put them. All right. So 2 reappointments to city committees: Neil Klein, Tony Roos, and Leslie Woodruff to the Traffic Safety Commission, Jenna Morris and Sharon Capri to the Planning Commission, Rick Fieldhouse to Historic Preservation, and Shannon Eoff to Affordable Housing. The terms and all are listed in your RCA. Then appointments. Now these, all right, first off, it's show and tell. These are the applications that we received for this round of vacancies. There are 20 of them there, which I think is absolutely fantastic. First off, this is a volunteer job. Sometimes it can be dry committee work, but it is, absolutely impressive to me that we had 20 applications, which the good side of that is that we've got that much interest. The bad side is you have to make selections and not everybody can be on the committee at this go round. So before I even say anything further, please know people that applied and may not have been selected this time, we will keep your applications and we will contact you. There are always vacancies on both standing committees and ad hoc committees. So thank you. So I'd like to propose the appointment of Melissa Daly to the Affordable Housing Commission, Greg Minahan and Lozelle Mathai to the Budget Committee, Brenda Morris to Citizens Rate Review Commission, and Lozelle Mathai will actually be resigning from Citizens Rate Review. So for her position, Wesley Clark. Now, if I could just give you a little bit of background, I guess, on these folks, and again, it's in your RCA. But in this selection with 6 vacancies, we chose 3 women and 3 men. We covered districts 1, 3, 4, and 5. Age guess, now this is just a guess and don't hold me to this. I think we had 2 people in their 30s, 2 in their 40s, 1 in their 50s, and 1 in their 60s. And again, like I said, they serve a range of positions and have backgrounds. We have in this group an attorney, a commercial construction coordinator, an accountant, a data scientist, a housing program coordinator, and a nonprofit director. So again, I hope you will approve this appointment. And if someone would like to make a motion, that would be fantastic.
Well, I guess I'll do it, Rick.
There you go, Denise. Thank you.
That was getting uncomfortably
I know, I was
silent.
like,
I'm like, what? Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve your appointments and reappointments for the committees as stated.
All right, thank you. Second?
Second.
All right, Jules, thank you. All right, any further discussion? All right, All right, all in favor signify by.
I actually do. So this is one of the pieces of work that I think we lack a lot of transparency on. I love that we have so many people that are willing to step up and serve on our committees. One of the concerns I have is that this decision is unilateral, and I would love to see us go to a system where there are a number of eyes on the applicants and how they get appointed to these committees. And so I'd like to have that conversation about how we make this a more transparent process, both to the council and to the public, about who's applying and how they're being appointed and who they're being appointed by. So it's definitely something that I've thought about a lot, but looking at a list this long and knowing that there are that many applicants out, I would love to know how we could make this a process that looks a lot more transparent across the board.
Sure, I greatly appreciate that. Just so you know, I mean, there was staff involvement as well, and it is by charter is how this is established. But as we mentioned during the work session, but committee appointments and all is a subject for a future work session, and I think we should certainly bring that up for all of this. The other part of this, I'd like to say that Sue Ryan did a ton of work with all of these, and Lacey pushed this out, I believe, to get the number of applicants that we did. This isn't always the way it is. We happen to get 20 for any number of reasons, but other times we're absolutely begging for people, and whether on an ad hoc committee or a standing committee. So I think we just keep that in mind. But yes, point well taken, and I think that could be a part of the work session discussion, and how we go about it in the future. So thank you. Anyone else? Any other comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, please.
I would just like to mention that was part of the analysis that I brought to the council at the last meeting. And I know it was a big packet of information, but between the charter and the council rules, it does rely heavily on the mayor to make the appointment. And so one of the things that was recommended was to have a group of people make selections. So that'll be coming back in February for discussion.
Yeah, I think with the deadline of trying to get people appointed by the end of the year, that's and again, I at least attempted just then to explain the process so that it wasn't just credential. It also had to do with district, gender, age, and experience. So, it's not perfect, but we'll do better next time. Any other questions, or any other comments? All right, hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye or raising your left hand. Okay, thank you. All right, moving right along. Sue, do we have any public comments this evening on general council business?
No, Mr. Mayor, we just have Mr. Suppe, who is going to join us for the resolution 3709 under new business. So
Okay.
No general public comments tonight.
Okay, well, very good. Thank you. All right, let's move on to the consent calendar. As mentioned, 7D has been moved off the consent calendar, and we will, if you're tracking at home, we will make that item 9A1 under new business. So I will entertain a motion for the consent calendars A, B, and C.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the consent calendar.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by raising your left hand. The consent calendar passes. Thank you all. All right, on to a public hearing. This is resolution 2020-3711. And Doug, I believe that is your cue.
Thank you, Mayor. So tonight we have an administrative hearing to address our potential application to Business Oregon for a community development block grant. We made a similar application back in 2016, and the application was to address improvements, things such as ADA ramps, roofs, windows, bathroom improvements, and so forth to manufactured homes. So in coordination and discussions with the Housing Authority of Yamhill County, we originally had thought about bringing this forward to you about 6 months ago, but with staffing resources, we pushed that off. And so we wanted to bring this back to you now. The next round of applications is occurring starting in February. Brief briefly on the background of this, the last time we did this particular program, we worked with the Housing Authority and the Housing Corporation in Yamhill County to do the administration on this particular grant. It is for improvements to manufactured homes within manufactured home parks. There are a variety of federal and state requirements that need to be met in order to be able to qualify, but this is for low and moderate family incomes that are for units that are in those particular parks. The units have to be basically 1978 and newer per the HUD funding. This is a federal funding program. And so with that, I'm going to stop and I'm going to turn this over to Darcy Reynolds with the Housing Authority, and she's going to walk you through some of the details, and then we'll come back with the recommendation. Thank you.
Good evening, Darcy.
Good evening, Mayor Rogers and Council. So I'm going to start with a really brief overview of the project, and then I want to go over the requirements for the public hearing. So this project is, the application will be for $500,000 to do housing rehabilitation on manufactured homes in parks. The project will be for grants, and grants will be provided only for immediate health and safety items. The majority of the work we do with these projects, we replace a lot of leaking roofs, heating systems. We install a lot of walk-in showers, wheelchair ramps, replace a lot of windows, dry rot. In these homes, there's a lot of rotten flooring that needs to be replaced. Those are the big ones we do most frequently. We would anticipate, this is a $500,000 grant, and we would anticipate helping about 50 families. Grant averages are about $8,000 a piece. These days, the cost of materials are rising so rapidly, each project might be a little higher than that. Repairs, because this is a grant, repairs are limited only to immediate health and safety or accessibility items. If anyone does want any more information, any of you, any city community members, most important people that might want information about applying, please refer them to the Housing Authority. Any questions about the project before I dive into the public hearing? Okay, so.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I'll go through this. The City of Newberg is eligible to apply for a 2021 CDBG from the Infrastructure Finance Authority, which is a division of Business Oregon. The grants can be used for public facilities and housing improvements, primarily for persons with low and moderate incomes. The purpose of this hearing is for the City Council of Newberg to obtain citizen views and to respond to questions and comments about community development and housing needs, especially the needs of low and moderate income persons, as well as other needs in the community that might be assisted with CDBG and the proposed project. So project details, approximately 12 million in CDBG funds will be awarded to Oregon non-metropolitan cities and counties in 2021. The maximum grant a city or county can receive for a housing rehabilitation project is $500,000. If the City of Newberg is awarded a 2021 housing rehabilitation CDBG, it would make up to $500,000 available during fiscal years 2021 through 2023 to provide grants to owners of manufactured homes in parks throughout the project's region that includes the city limits of Newberg, McMinnville, and Dayton. The range of activities that may be carried out with these funds includes, but is not limited to, lead and asbestos testing, treatment, and abatement, inspections, assessments, repairs, and replacements of private septic tanks, drain fields, water lines, sewer lines, and wells, improvements necessary to meet the needs of persons with disabilities or reasonable accommodation requests, construction, rehabilitation, reconstruction, or improvements to upgrade substandard electrical, plumbing, roofing, siding, insulation, windows and doors, heating systems, hot water heaters, dry rot repairs, and weatherization. Another thing is purchase and installation of permanent fixtures such as light fixtures and built-in appliances. And finally, grant administration and management. It is estimated that the full 500,000 in grant funds will be used to benefit at least 120 persons, of whom 100% will be low or moderate income. The proposed activities of this project is not likely to result in the displacement of any persons or businesses. If displacement becomes necessary, alternatives will be examined to minimize the displacement and provide required reasonable benefits to those displaced. Any low and moderate income housing which is demolished or converted to another use will be replaced. So that's it for the public hearing information. Doug, did you want to go through the resolution?
Not the specific details, but it's very important to note that Darcy had to go through, there's very specific requirements that we have to have entered into the record for this particular public hearing. The minutes actually have to accompany our application that will be submitted to the IFA. And so that's why I've asked her to make sure that we went through all of the details of that particular information. I think this might be a point in time, Mr. Mayor, if it's you so please, I could say that staff's recommendation is to adopt resolution 2020-37-11. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions, folks?
Mr.
Rick?
Mayor. Oh, go ahead, Denise.
I just wanted to say we've done a few things like this or this, and it's always nice that there's things we can offer, especially for mobile homes. Those are some of our most affordable housing in the city, and I would like to do whatever we can to help them stay safe.
Stephanie?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I remember all of the photos after the last one, and it was really impressive about how much they were able to do and how much impact they really had on the folks that received these grants. So it's definitely a big win. I think the more we can do, the better. And with that, I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2020-3711.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I suppose at this point I should, my conflict statement, I work in the field of affordable housing, my day job, and we often do repairs for manufactured homes through Habitat for Humanity. Generally for us, though, it does not compete at all with this because we tend to do repairs for units that are older than 1978. But anyway, for that full disclosure, but I will, strongly hope that not only we submit this grant, but that we get the money because it's fantastically important to a lot of people. So there you go. All right, any other further discussion? All right, you don't need anything other specifics, Doug, just a regular voice vote? Oops.
Just a voice vote would be acceptable.
Okay,
Mayor.
all right, so all in favor of resolution 2020-3711 signify by raising your left hand. And that passes unanimously, Sue. Thank you very much. All right, and Darcy and Doug, good luck with the grant. So thank you. All right, next. All right, moving on to what was item 7D on the consent calendar. This is resolution 2020-3712. Without further discussion, I will entertain a motion to pass this. The only reason I did this is so that I can abstain honestly because of the vote at our last meeting. So if someone would like to make that motion, I would be happy to entertain it.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to move that we adopt resolution number 2020-3712.
And do we have a second? Jules on the second. All right. All in favor signify by saying aye or raising your left hand. Opposed, same sign. And I'll abstain, Sue. Thank you. All right. Now we're on to item 9A, the briefing draft City of Newberg Housing Needs Analysis Update. Mr. Rux.
I'm sorry, Sue, I voted yes. I just didn't get my hand up all the way.
I saw
like this, so I.
Yeah, thank you. Thank
Thank you, Mayor. So this is a briefing on the housing needs analysis that we've been working on. As some of you may remember, we received a grant for $10,000 from the Department of Land Conservation and Development to update our 2019 housing needs analysis. And specifically that was to address updates to the buildable lands inventory and to the population forecast. We received a new population forecast at the end of June of 2020. And since we were working on the economic opportunities analysis, it was prudent to make sure that both documents use the same population forecast. Echo Northwest was our consultant of record on the particular project. There was a housing needs analysis ad hoc committee that was established by the mayor and the council for this. They met 4 times. They started meeting in August. Work with the consultant and staff actually happened prior to August, but the first meeting of the committee was actually in August. We briefed them all the way through on the buildable lands inventory. Oh, I should back up and say we did orientation, we did the buildable lands inventory, we did the housing forecast, then we brought back all the material compiled together. The committee also was looking at the public and semi-public land need analysis. That's something we did not do in 2019. So we rolled that in. And then the committee also looked at the housing strategies. And the committee was given their final product to look at the comprehensive package at the first part of December, and they looked at all 3 components of that. There are some key things that came out of and differences between the 2019 and the 2020, what we're calling the 2021 HNA. We have a land supply of residential of 631 acres. In 2019, it was 675, so we continued to grow. So there was land absorption that did occur over that time period. Our population, that's the biggest piece of all of this. Our population forecast actually went down. 2,824 roughly. 2,824 was the particular number. So there was always a lot of questions from the committee about, well, why are we growing slower? The response is that we have an aging population and birth rates. We also have a slower in-migration that's occurring. So if you were to look at data statewide, based on the last population projection that PSU rolled out, is that Oregon actually grew slower this year, but we were also in the middle of a COVID-19 crisis. And so I think that you can make some connections between those two. The public and semi-public component of this, as I mentioned, we did not do this in 2019. It was something we knew we needed to do, and so I want to make sure that we rolled that in. This actually came from funds from the city out of the general fund to do this component of that. But we looked at what we need for things such as churches, parks, schools, city facilities, and so forth, and on those particular uses, if they would be included in land that would be designated residential or not. And what we came up with, there was about 28 and a half acres of land for municipal purposes. And that was for things, bypass was a big one. There's land that's within the UGB that will be used for construction of phase 2 of the bypass. The overall, what we ended up showing is that we have a deficit in our high density residential and in our medium density residential. The acreage specifically on those is 44 in the high density, 37 in the medium density. And we have a surplus of 31 acres in our low density residential. And again, that's combining both what we need for residential land and adding in this public and semi-public land to help support all of that. I know in the report, I inadvertently said I was going to give you the entire copy of the HNA report. It's a very long report. You can always view that on the project website. But I think what's more important, we'll be going back to the Planning Commission in January for them to review. We've been giving briefings on a monthly basis to the Planning Commission on the aspects of the details that have been coming out of the analysis. And then we'd be coming back in front of the City Council in February at your February 16th meeting for a legislative hearing At that time, we'd be looking and asking for the council to only accept the report. There are provisions in state law administrative rule. That's why we're only accepting at this particular juncture. And there would be an additional step that would occur in early spring, maybe late spring, early summer, let me call it that, where we'll be back in front of you looking for some direction, what you want to do with our housing needs analysis and our economic opportunities analysis. So that's my brief update, Mr. Mayor.
All right, and thank you for that, Doug. Thank you very much. Any questions, folks, for Doug? Anyone? Housing needs analysis. I will say one thing, and Doug mentioned those who served on the committee, and I think I have it here. Correct me if I'm wrong, Doug, but I think Charlie Harris, Jessica Kane, Kurt Walker, Todd Engel, Corey Zilsdorf, Jack Kriz, and Abishah Stone. I believe
That is
were the
correct.
committee.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you, and thank you to them for all their work. Thank you very much. Any questions of Doug, folks? Yep. Hearing none. All right. Well, thank you for that, Doug. And let's see. Then I think it's on to you again. Draft economic opportunities analysis.
Thank you, Mayor. So Doug Rux again. This one I'm going to take a little bit more time. You've received a couple of briefings on the Eoa project, and this one I'll kind of go through so we can get down to a little bit more of the details. Sue, next slide. So one of the important aspects of the EOAs, we did a virtual open house. So as Dan had mentioned in his review of accomplishments and activities for 2020, we've had to pivot in a number of our projects and go online and try to get citizen input and feedback. So we did a virtual open house and did some survey questions. And so slide shows we did from October 21st to November 16th. We had basically 4 different elements or sections to the survey, and we had between 26 and 45 respondents, depending on the questions. Not all participants answered all of the questions. We also had some conversations with our technical advisory committee, and just talking about our competitive advantages. And it was interesting that the survey results kind of came out in alignment with what the TAC had identified. We also did the same process with our Citizens Advisory Committee. Next slide. I'm going to go through a few slides just on the survey results because it's always good to have some baseline data. And so this is, do you think Newberg's a better place to live? And actually we came out with 42% of those who responded thought it was a better place to live. 22 said no, 24% it's about the same, and 11% indicated they didn't know. Next slide. Describing the growth rate. I thought this one was kind of interesting, is that 56% of the respondents said the growth rate was about right. And you can see on the slide, 24 thought it was too fast and 20% thought it was too slow. Next slide. This is a little more detailed, but this is talking about the types of services. And so 76% of the respondents talked about medical services are important to them, services they need. Restaurants, and we know that restaurants currently in this particular COVID environment are a bit challenged. Childcare services, we've had conversations with council about childcare and the desert oasis concept that exists within Yamhill County. Grocery stores came in at very important at 46% and other at 42%. I think what's kind of important about that top list is when you take the very important or somewhat important, is that disproportionately they thought that those particular services were very important to Newberg residents. Next slide. And then we asked the question, what can the city of Newberg do to support businesses and economic development? Again, here 53% prioritizing the bypass. And so that has been a long-standing conversation within the community. Then we came in at almost 80% about urban renewal, and that's a program that we're working on currently. master planning. And so as we look at employment lands, specifically on the industrial side, is doing master planning work. And so similar work that we did with the Riverfront Master Plan. If I could kind of toggle over, I'd say that's similar work that we did with the Downtown Improvement Plan as well, but that was commercial. Redevelopment, again, community members, both in the very important and agree, thought that was to look at that redevelopment opportunity and preserving our industrial land. That's kind of a mantra around the state of Oregon, is not converting your industrial land to non-industrial uses. And then at the very bottom of this particular slide is supporting our economy, a variety of jobs. And we've talked before about family wage jobs, but we also need employment opportunities across all spectrums. And so when we're dealing with the economic opportunities analysis, we're looking at both commercial land and industrial lands. Next slide, please. A few of the details on this. And so we had to look at redevelopment. And so with the sale of the mill site, where we're at the last briefing we gave you, we had to pivot and change because the mill did sell. And the new owners are looking at redeveloping that site. And so kind of the blue box over on your right-hand side of the slide is we looked at the mill site. We looked at redevelopment of parcels, and primarily those are along Portland Road. It was more on the commercial side. And then what we've been working on the West End Mill District is part of the Downtown Improvement Plan. Next slide. This kind of goes a little bit deeper into that by looking at that redevelopment component. And so kind of the first part of this slide talks about buildable acres on tax lots. And I've highlighted with the red arrows, potentially redevelopable. And you can see a total of 26 over in the right-hand column. But each one of these arrows kind of really directs to the redevelopment opportunities. And so where we were at a month and a half or 2 months ago, the mill site, like I said before, caused us to kind of pivot and look at what we can really do for the redevelopment side. And so that changed our numbers significantly by about 100 acres on our industrial land need. Next slide. Employment growth. So when we talked with you before, we were talking about, because of COVID-19, a 10% reduction in employment because of COVID-19. In conversations we had with the state, they said, basically, this is a 20-year forecast and projection. And so using that 10% discount, they suggested not to do that. And so we added that 10% back into our employment growth. And so that actually had our employment growing higher than what we showed you, again, about a month or a month and a half ago. And you can see on the blue box the changes in the numbers from what we presented before. Next slide. This gets into a little bit more detail. So last time we talked with you, we were looking at about 35% of our future employment being industrial. And based upon committee and other feedback we received, we reduced that down to 32%. You can see that difference between the green box and the blue box. Retail stayed the same, but the office component of that went down a little bit, but the government piece went up. And so there was a lot of conversation between the committee and comments we received from the public about where we would see that particular growth. And part of this also played into healthcare, which is one of our primary components of our economy. Next slide, please. On this particular slide, you can see in the blue box where we were at again about a month and a half ago. And what we're projecting to see now is a little bit more in the industrial side occurring in parcels that are less than 5 acres in size. Then a little less, let's see, more on less than 5 acres, more on 5 acres, less on the 5 to 25, about the same on the 25 to 50 acre sites, and a little bit more on the 50 acre plus. And again, that toggles directly to redevelopment of the mill site. So the numbers did shift a little bit, not significantly, but there was a shift in the numbers. Thank you. Next slide. I mentioned the public semi-public in the HNA portion of this. And so we had to do a similar analysis on our employment lands. And from that, we identified there's about 2.9 acres of commercial land need for facilities. And so we looked at City Hall, growing population, might we need to expand, parking lots downtown, and then we talked with Yamhill County Transit about their needs. The semi-public is mostly on churches, and so we do have churches within our commercial properties. Then about 12.3 acres is directly related to infrastructure. And so water treatment plant, water treatment components of that, the county, and they need bus parking. And I mentioned earlier, the big portion of that is the bypass. A lot of that occurs on the southeast quadrant of town. And then, as I mentioned, there's some need for churches, and we do allow churches in our M2 zone within Newberg. Next slide. So where are we? Where does that leave us? So with the updated analysis in its draft form, we have a surplus of 18.1 acres of commercial land. We have a deficit of 164.3 acres of industrial land. Last time we spoke with you, we had a deficiency of industrial land of about 254 acres roughly. Again, with the mill site and its redevelopment, we had to recategorize that land. Before it was identified as developed. Now we're looking at it as redevelopment. Next slide. And there we at. Questions. A quick brief overview of hundreds of pages of document.
Awesome. All right. Questions, folks, for Doug? Hearing none. There you what? That's all right. All right. Well, that's good. Like you said, Doug, that's a boatload of work. And again, as is my habit, I will read the names of the Citizens Advisory Committee of the folks that were involved with this one. Gene Pyros, Kurt Walker, Alan Rout, Philip Higgins, Rob Halliburton, Carr Biggerstaff, Bob Woodruff, Alvin Elbert, Keith Hansen, Isa Pena, and Jim Bush.
And so, Mayor, I would also share that we had the cutoff for the second round of comments on the EOA, and that ended on Thursday of last week. We've received those. Consultants and I met on Monday this morning. And with that, we'll be doing some additional modifications based upon comments. This is a project that the Citizens Committee will come back in late January and do their final review and develop a recommendation. And then it will go on to the Planning Commission in March and be in front of the City Council in April.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you. Any other questions or comments for Doug? All right. Well, thank you, Doug. Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for all the work on this. Next, I think we're on to Resolution 2020-3709, the Legal Services Contract. And maybe I'll just do the introduction on this, Dan, anyway, so for whoever's listening, this is regarding legal services for the city of Newberg. In the structure of the organization, the city council has 3 direct hires. They are the city manager, the community court or the municipal court judge, and the legal attorney, or so legal counsel for the council. So as you may have heard, we have chosen to move towards an in-house firm rather than having in-house counsel, having an outside firm, I meant to say, rather than in-house counsel. And so this was the approach to do this. So it was myself, Councilor Finley, and Councilor Bacon that interviewed 3 firms and are making the suggestion here to you that we sign a contract with Miller, Nash, Graham, and Dunn, or also known as Miller Nash, for services into the future. Now, there's a couple of questions on public comment. One has to do with the rate. I will just mention that right off. The firm that we chose considered it a trade secret, cited an Oregon revised statute covering that, but I do not believe there's any reason we could not say what the total budgeted amount we believe to be for legal services. Now, remember, in the past, we paid for both an in-house attorney and then outside legal counsel. So I'll start with that, and then Dan, if you want to flesh out that, and Denise and Stephanie as well.
So the last, talking about the amount paid, the budget for the last 5 years on average has been about 525,000. So, certainly that would be a goal threshold to try to stay under. But I think that, the key is also not just financial in the sense of trying to limit our costs, but also I think that the intent was to improve the breadth of the representation, and to have folks who have various expertise who are all part of one organization. And it's really, in this day and age, as we get more and more complicated in the matters before us, especially with urban renewal and other land use matters, I think it becomes very challenging for one individual to have the knowledge to really represent on all those various pieces, and to do it in an expeditious and high quality way. And so, the hope is that you've got experts on labor and, land use, all kinds of sort of the typical expertise of a firm that is well established in supporting municipal clients, that we might see some improvement in terms of the production of having multiple people serving the city's needs.
Rick, I have a comment as well.
Yeah, please, Denise.
I received an email about the transparency of this, and it is my opinion that we will get a more transparent number in our budget every year than we've ever had before. Legal services was kind of spread throughout all the different departments, and we had no idea. We had no idea how much was being spent until we asked. So to me, this really will show us a true transparent number every single year.
Anything else, Stephanie, or anyone?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think one of the things that we really found when we were interviewing each of these is that the ability for them to sort of tease out where our legal services are being spent, where our money is being spent, is far and above what we could be offered by one individual. Their ability to sort of break it out by departments and about down to like who's contacting them and who's spending the most money in terms of legal services really is a bonus for us. And it really does make for a much more transparent process, I think. And I just would echo that, all of these firms had the ability to do what we need them to do, but I think we really are setting before you the firm that felt like a really good fit in terms of our council goals, in terms of cooperation and working with our staff, and just overall they felt like a really great fit for Newberg. And I think I was really impressed with how well above and beyond even the other ones we interviewed, how well they did. So I'm excited for this, and I think this looks like a really good working relationship with a team that can offer us everything that we need in a way that is cost effective and expeditious.
Let's see. Sue, was Mr. Suppy hoping to make comment, or
Yes.
we all have seen? Okay,
Yes, so hang on just a second. I'm gonna
thank you.
come on. Robert, we need you to unmute so you can talk. Are you there? Okay. I've unmuted his phone, but I'm not hearing him. Hang on a sec. He's also on here. Robert, are you there? He said he was having trouble. He said Zoom kept saying the meeting didn't exist, so I don't know. Robert, hello.
All right. Well, while we're waiting for Robert, you all were provided the written comments, I think. I don't know if you had time to take a look at them. I think we tried to address at least one or two of the comments. I will acknowledge one thing that Robert didn't mention is that, you know, the legal services is one of our direct reports, as it were. And again, when going out to a firm, I mean, that could be perceived as being more awkward, but I could argue that it might actually be less awkward because we will still have to have a gatekeeper. We will still have to have somebody who can provide a report as to what is going on, what legal services are being contracted for, what are working on, which might give us more direct information than other ways. So, all right. Well, Mr. Suppy, I'm afraid technological and for an IT guy, how can you have IT problems? I don't know how that happens, but anyway, Robert, we've got your comments and always, as always, we thank you for your thoughtful consideration. All right, folks, any other questions on this resolution? One other thing I'd like to mention that if you haven't seen, or you might not, is that the contract is for 3 years, but the contract itself reads that the city of Newberg has the right to terminate our services for any reason at any time. So again, that is comforting, not that we're going to need it, but that's comforting to know. So any other comments or questions? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
I guess I'll do it.
All right, do it.
I usually am okay with silence, but not always. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution 2020-3709.
Second?
Second.
Okay, Elise with a second. All right, any further discussion? All right, all in favor signify by raising your left hand. All right, thank you all. All right, I think that, except for council business, anybody have anything they'd like to report out on things they may be involved with on behalf of the council?
Thank you Rick, for attending Taste Newberg for me. I popped in, Rick held down the fort.
Yeah, of course, thank you. Yep. Anyone else? All right. All right. Is this, we're saying goodbye to 2020 then for these meetings? I won't see you all until the new year? Really? Wow. All right. Any other comments for the good of the order, folks, before we sign off? All right. Well, thank you. It's been a
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. There you go. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to all. It's been a challenging year. And 2021, fingers crossed, it's going to be significantly better. So there you go. All right. Thank you all. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.